Hello everyone, welcome to another video from AltoCumulus. This is the fourth and the final part in the series of how to host your resume in the cloud. Let's get started. Static web pages will remain same until they are manually changed. Look at our resume for example. That page will look same unless we manually change the index.html and other files. The page will be same no matter what. Delivered to the users exactly as stored. No application logic involved. The page does not change according to the user who is logged in or the time or any other factors. Designed using languages such as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now using JavaScript might make your static web page looks like a dynamic one. For example, your page could have two buttons. Based on which button the user clicks, your page might show different images. But this is nothing more than a simple JavaScript logic. Your page is still a static one. Content is rarely changed. Look at our resume for example. We're not going to change our resume often, right? Compare your resume to an online shopping website like Amazon.com. Contents on that site changes very often. Database is not involved. A web page does not make any REST API calls to a backend application which connects to a database. Simply put, static web pages are opposite of dynamic web pages, which will have customized views, complex application logic, and backend API calls. Look at our domain batman.resume.nilukshansiva.com. We can divide this domain to three parts. The first, the .com, which is known as the top level domain. Next we have our domain which we buy from domain registrars like Route 53. In my case, I have bought nilukshansiva.com domain which is our root domain or the zone apex. Finally, we can have something like batman.resume which is a subdomain of my domain. Let's see what happens when someone visits batman.resume.nilukshansiva.com. I am explaining this in a high level to make things simple. User's browser will ask the top level domain .com, hey, I want to know the IP address of batman.resume.nilukshansiva.com. Do you have any idea? .com will say, hey, I don't know the IP of that, but I know where you can find details about nilukshansiva.com. Then it will point our browser towards our domain's name servers. Our browser will then ask, hey name server, do you know about batman.resume.nilukshansiva.com? Yes, I know will be the answer. Remember, we created an alias record which points our batman.resume subdomain to our S3 website endpoint. In that case, our browser will get another domain name to visit. It will ask that domain, hey, I need to find this IP. Now I am directed to you. Where should I go? Now AWS should know to which bucket it should direct this traffic. That is why AWS designed a solution in a way that our bucket name should be same as our domain name. I know this is a little bit hard to understand, but if you really think about it, you will get the idea. In the part 3 of this hands-on series, we wanted to serve HTTPS traffic for our S3 bucket. We configured CloudFront. We created an alias record to CloudFront distribution. In our Route 53 console, we created an alias record which points our subdomain to a CloudFront distribution. The CloudFront distribution has its own mechanism to distribute our S3 content around the globe. So the answer to this question is no. Then why I showed you that was, you might be a person who just want to serve your S3 content through your custom domain. You might not want to have HTTPS. In this case, having your bucket name same as your domain name is mandatory. If you take our S3 bucket, its REST API endpoint will look something like this. Pay attention to the text marked in bold. It has S3 dot, then the region, and then AmazonAWS.com. If you take a website endpoint, this will be different. We will be using this endpoint to make REST API calls like getObject, putObject, etc. SSL is supported, which means it is accessible via HTTPS. We can use OAI, Origin Access Identity. What does this mean is we can configure our S3 bucket to allow only traffic from CloudFront and block the public access. In this way, users will be able to access our content only through the CloudFront distribution. It supports both private and public content. Now, what is a website endpoint? It will look something like this. As I said before, look at the text marked in bold. It has a different naming pattern. S3-website-region and so on. It does not support SSL. But remember, we created a CloudFront distribution to handle this. We cannot use OAI. Our S3 bucket should allow public access. Default index document is available. When we visit a website endpoint, we will be presented with a default document. In our case, it was index.html. It supports only public content. Now, if you need more details on this, check the link that I put in the description of this video. In summary, what we did in this hands-on was, we created a S3 bucket, we configured it to be a static website hosting server, and then we served the S3 content from our custom domain, and finally served the content via HTTPS using a CloudFront distribution. That's all, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you all in my next video. Until then, it's goodbye from Nilukshan Siva. Stay tuned.